Hello, everyone, and welcome to EVTN News. I have a few stories today. I guess just looking ahead to next week, though. Next week, I definitely won't be doing EVTN on Monday. Maybe I'll skip a week. I don't know. Just stay tuned. I don't know if you get notifications. Most doesn't seem like people do. It seems like they get unsubscribed to notifications. So anyway, let's start out. let's start out with these stories, and it seems like some of these stories are connected. So the first story I'm going to start out with is a tweet by James Martin S.J. He said, "In my 25 years as a priest and almost 40 as a Jesuit, I've known hundreds of holy, faithful, and celibate LMNOP priests. Okay. They've been my superiors." Uh, how does he know? So, celibate LMNOP. So, what does that mean? Like, how do you know that then? Anyway. They've been my superiors, my teachers, my confessors, my mentors, my spiritual directors, and my friends. No doubt about that. And if you're Catholic, they've celebrated masses for you, baptized your children, heard your confessions, visited you in hospitals, presided at your weddings, and buried your parents. The children would be the children. Sorry, the church would be immeasurably poorer without them. So I don't dispute much of that, except the last part. The church would be immeasurably poorer. They'd be wealthier because the church is paying out abuse lawsuits. They're paying out settlements from abuse lawsuits, mostly committed by LMNOP priests. So it wouldn't be poorer without them. It would be wealthier without them. And yeah, there would be less priests. And he has known hundreds of LMNOP priests. How does he know that? The part where it says celibate. Okay. All right. That's not the last we'll hear from Slim Jim. But a news story from Florida, and I have a lot on this. But not enough. You'll see at the end. I don't actually have the full story, and no one really does. Um, okay, let me see if the important part. Oh, okay. So I actually exclude the important part from my notes. Anyway, Sister Loretta Maria is founding an autonomous monastery to pray for priests and for the world within a community under the Carmelite rule. For the world. Oh, okay. And to pray for priests and for the world within a community under the Carmelite rule without a threat of suppression by any diocese or the Vatican. So they're an independent monastery. And Bishop Schneider will be blessing it. That's actually the one of the important parts of the story, but I didn't include that in my notes. And Schneider supports it, which is really interesting because, um, yeah, I mean, he's still like I don't want to say mainstream, but um, he's like very much into like the religious orders with canonical status, like the FSSP and Institute of Christ the King. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, another story is that the FSSP ordained, I think it was 11 priests just this past week. So that's great. And now they can open more churches, right? now they can go into more dioceses because I know bishops are kind of knocking on their doors, really trying to get them to come in to various dioceses and help them help work around some of the rules and yeah. So now they have more priests to put in different places, and so let's open more churches, or more what would you call it, like parishes or missions or whatever. Anyway, this getting back to this, I got way off topic there. Getting back to this monastery, Sister Loretta Maria told LifeSite News that the founding of a new independent Carmelite monastery is necessary, as shown both by the suppression of the Savannah, Georgia Carmel and by the ongoing suppression of the traditional Latin Mass, which has been mercilessly enforced around the world following Traditionis Custodes. She explained that the newly formed 501c3 called Habit Forming Sisters Corporation will be solely managed by the members of the new community so that the assets of the monastery will always belong to the nuns. I think that's how other communities are set up as well, even some that have approval from the diocese. So it doesn't necessarily exclude that, but you have to have a bishop who's willing to accommodate that and sort of stabilize that community. Anyway, those assets include what she is currently fundraising towards: Our Lady Co-Redemptrix Carmelite Monastery and Our Lady of Sorrows Chapel in High Springs, Florida, where she hopes the sisters will be able to attend the traditional Latin Mass daily offered by traditional Catholic priests in union with Rome. So what does that mean? I mean, are there diocesan priests? Probably unlikely, since it's a new location. She hopes that the sisters will be able to do that. But is she going to try to affiliate with the SSPX because they are in union with Rome? Does she think a retired diocesan priest will say Mass? In High Springs, Florida is near Gainesville. They have FSSP parish about an hour away from there, so that probably won't work. The FSSP probably won't staff them. Gainesville is where I think it's the University of Florida Gators. That's what they're called. So anyway, I found that was interesting news. And Schneider was supporting this group, Bishop Schneider. So I mean, everyone wants to have like an independent community that's in communion with Rome, whatever that means. But as you'll see later on, maybe I don't know. Rome is in a very questionable spot. Okay. Well, and June is the secular celebration of LMNOP month, so hopefully your faith community, that's yeah. Hopefully but I mean, really though, because you might not have a Latin Mass, but hopefully you have something reverent. And what is your community doing to combat LMNOP month? Are they doing any like prayers or masses or anything? So, okay. A Catholic priest in Poland has participated in a public ceremony to bless LMNOP couples. The attempted blessings took place on May 17th during an ecumenical service at the Evangelical Reformed Parish in Warsaw, in which both Catholic and Protestant clergy were present, including Michael Jablonski, pastor of Evangelical Reformed Parish, Helena Redax, a pastor from the Evangelical Church of the Augsburg Confession, and Father Adam Swieczynski, a Roman Catholic priest. Swieczynski. Yeah, that sounds right. The blessing ceremony was not liturgical in nature, despite Swieczynski's presence, so as not to breach canonical regulations. But this is something that I think is a possibility that they may try more of. This is an ecumenical service, but there will be a Catholic priest there. And ecumenism is popular after Vatican II, and so you can actually do that now. And the Novus Ordo, I guess you're not going to get kicked out of a diocese, whereas before Vatican II you would have probably been excommunicated for participating in any kind of ecumenical ceremony, or you'd be excommunicated for LMNOP blessings. And if you do both, was that a double excommunication? I don't know, but yes, we need to do excommunications for heresies and any of this nonsense, really. So, okay, let me pull up this. Okay. So, Francis appointed 3 new figures as members of the Dicastery for the Destruction of the Faith. I think that's Kissey's department. So, of course, he's... yeah. So, Cardinal Jose Tolentino de Mendonca, prefect of the Dicastery for what was called culture and education, but now it's ignorance and illiteracy. So he encouraged people to engage in LMNOP activity. He wrote the preface to a book by an LMNOP activist who is also a religious sister, Cardinal Marcello Semeraro, prefect for the Dicastery of the Saints, made his former diocese the Italian capital of the Novus Ordo LMNOP movement. He hosted an annual forum of LMNOPs who claimed to be Christians and who promoted the propaganda within the church. So these guys all have... So they have their own departments, but they were added to a different department. So it's like cross departments. So they're all in every department. So it's basically like, I don't know, like you have a hand in corrupting every department in the Vatican. Archbishop Bruno Forte of Italy was responsible for the selections on LMNOP and the controversial interim document on the First Synod on the Family in 2014. So yeah, you have three guys that are very supportive of LMNOP during LMNOP month, you know? All right, so I debated whether I wanted to talk about this or not. And this is, since you've watched so far, then this is a story that I didn't even promote on the video, but I think I will. I mean, I think I'll talk about it because I'm not actually... I mean, it's Vigano making the allegation, so you probably have seen it. I don't know. Taylor Marshall probably had a video on it. Archbishop Vigano has taken to social media to accuse Pope Francis of committing the same abuses as the notorious Cardinal McCarrick, an allegation he says was personally confided to him by a former novice of Francis. So Vigano is alleging these crimes. Now, he said in a follow-up question, he said that he would not elaborate further at this time. So he brought it to light, and people are criticizing him. But there's an article, and I encourage you to read it. It would be in the description. It's from the website Complicit Clergy, and the author has some interesting points. I think it might be... I mean, you guys might find it interesting if you read the whole thing. He says, had Vigano's detractors, the ones who are critical of him accusing Francis of abuse, he said, had Vigano's detractors performed due diligence before publicly shutting down Vigano's report, they would have discovered that Vigano is in fact not the first to accuse Francis of abusing seminarians. Just as a case is strengthened when additional witnesses can substantiate the already report that Francis abused a Jesuit novice in Cordoba. In 2015, on the occasion of Francis' visit to the United States, an Argentinian Jesuit disclosed at a dinner with two priests in Chicago he had knowledge of allegations describing how Francis sodomized a novice. Investigators who later contacted the Jesuit and the others present at the dinner confirmed the graphic details of the abuse allegation. So it doesn't say when the abuse was committed, the alleged, of course. But the story, and I don't say that to even like spread rumors, but I think this next paragraph will kind of highlight where I'm getting at. So, in the wake of Cardinal McElroy's elevation to the College of Cardinals in 2022, a Catholic news agency article titled Cardinal Robert McElroy, Newest and Youngest American Red Hat, a Kindred Spirit of Pope Francis, celebrated McElroy's promotion and steered clear of mentioning how McElroy covered up Rachel Mastrogiacomo's report of satanic ritual abuse by convicted San Diego father Jacob Bertrand. While Mastrogiacomo discovered that her abuse was never reported in then Catholic News and CNA's article, Catholic News Agency, she posted a respectful Facebook comment volunteering to speak on record with CNA to provide all the police reports, court documents, and other corroborating evidence pertaining to her case. CNA immediately deleted her comments and warned her that she violated their community standards by offering to come forward with her abuse allegations. So they completely stomped out any criticism of McElroy, who is blatantly a heretic. So this is pretty bad. My Catholic News Agency is they seem to be on the conservative side of things, but considering they deleted this, they deleted this comment. They refused to even allow comments that were critical of McElroy. This Francis report, how many more people are going to try to cover this up? And it has been covered up. Have you heard about it? Have you heard about this 2015 discussion? The Jesuit who suggested that Francis, suggesting that Francis was an abuser. I don't know. I mean, but how do we find the truth? That's the thing. That's what I want to get to. Like, how do we find the truth? And is Vigano just waiting for more information or contacting people? I don't know. Sometimes he says things and you just wonder. But can you immediately dismiss it as false? And that's the problem, is that these news entities seem to be more than happy to report on other people's work, but it's who does the groundwork in investigating this stuff. And no one wants to none of these media corporations want to investigate potential crimes of Francis. So that's highly problematic, I think. So I don't have an opinion on this, but I wanted to just mention it because Eric Salmon's this is just one guy who was very critical of Vigano in this instance. Now I think Taylor Marshall, I thought I saw a headline from Taylor Marshall who did a video on this. I don't know, but this I mean, people really need to look into this stuff. You shouldn't just right off the bat dismiss it. Okay, and George Neumeier would have looked into it, but he's not alive, which is really sad. Who's gonna break these stories? Really, it's just, I don't know. We're in a disappointing situation. All right, but let's synthesize everything. Pope Francis has written the preface, published on Vatican News and American Magazine. What's today? June the 3rd? Okay, yeah, today, June 3rd. He has written the preface to a book by notorious LMNOP activist James Martin titled Lazarus Come Forth. Now, this book was released last year, so this might be like a re-release of it. So the foreword begins by saying that Francis is very grateful to Father James Martin, whose other writings I also know and appreciate. Francis adds, Father James has the perspective of a man who has fallen in love with the Word of God. So Francis is a supporter of Martin. Martin blessed LMNOP couples. Therefore, and Francis is uh, he must have very close access, or he may have Martin's number on speed dial. I don't know, but regardless, they're they're close friends, or they're at least friends. It's not like me and like a random viewer who I don't know and they don't know me, and so how would they get in? That's actually really probably a bad analogy too. But how do you get in contact with someone? So like if I wanted to get in contact with, say, I don't know, like like, think of like Scott Hahn, okay? How would I get in contact with Scott Hahn? Well, I could try to contact one of his organizations, or I don't know, maybe he has an email at Franciscan University of Steubenville that I could try to email, and he might be respectful and respond, but he probably wouldn't. And that'd be sort of like, how do I get in touch with Pope Francis? I don't, because I'd send a letter to the Vatican and they'd probably throw it away. With James Martin, Francis could just give him a call because he seems to have he seems to be in contact with him quite frequently. And if Francis disagreed with anything that Martin did, he could always call him up and tell him, "Hey, you're doing something wrong." Like, you can easily do that. If he disagrees with something he says, then he could let him know. But he hasn't. He never has. He hasn't spoken against James Martin at all. And therefore, all the Pope splainers are incorrect in suggesting that the LMNOP blessings document wasn't about LMNOP blessings. They're just wrong, because Father James Martin is proof. He blessed LMNOP couples, and Francis wrote a foreword for his book. So there you have it. Now, I see there were some comments coming through. Thanks for commenting. Glad everyone's watching. I have known biblically, says Jimmy. Schneider, oh, I'm sorry. If I accidentally delete your comment, I'm sorry. My phone's, it's a little bit tricky on my phone. But anyway, Schneider is very traditional. He blessed St. Benedict medal for me. Kansas City Royals fan, 11 priests. That means 11 new priests. Yes, yes. Let's do the Latin Mass only. And I think they ordained deacons too. If you're still on the live stream, oh no, I don't want to put you in timeout. If you're still on the live stream, can you let me know if I think they ordained deacons. The FSSP, well, not they, but FSSP deacons were ordained in March, I believe. Do you know how many? If you could comment on that, if you're still on the live stream. Well, they can get hopefully a second priest at my apostolate here in Lincoln. We have a temporary priest, but he's doing some health recovery. That's a reason he's here. Well, Lincoln's so close to the seminary, can't they just send priests there? Can't they just like have them say mass in the morning and then drive right over to the cemetery? I don't know. They kicked out many straight holy priests due to the Lavender Mafia, so don't fall for their tiny violin trick. Okay. Yeah, oh yeah, seminaries, they weed out traditionalists. Although some of them slip through the cracks, but they have to be secretive about it. That's the problem. That's why the traditionalist orders are the best way to go, because you're going to get good seminary training, and like your training is going to be traditional, and then you don't have to be secret about your liking the Latin Mass. Okay, ecumenism equals praying with the pagans. The Bible says the gods of the pagans are demons. Yep. Pope Saint Agatha, is that Saint Pope Saint Agatha? I don't know. He who prays with a heretic is a heretic. Oh, that's a good quote. I was reading some pretty cool stuff in what's it, the Canons and Decrees of the Council of Trent. I was like, whoa. Now, unfortunately, I I can't really quote a lot of it because it's all run-on sentences. I mean, it's the sentences are like half a page, so it's hard to quote it in context. But when you're reading through it, it's some of the prayers or some of the statements are like, it's on your immortal soul if you choose an evil cardinal or something. Like, yeah, wow. What does that say about the current group? Francis says no LMNOP in seminaries. Francis appoints LMNOP cardinals. Francis writes forward to Jimmy Martin's LMNOP book. Francis speaks with a forked tongue. Well, um, yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. So the LMNOP stuff, yeah, his comments, and I'm not even, if I actually quoted Francis and what he said about LMNOPs and seminaries, too many LMNOPs and seminaries, my video would get banned because of that, because of using a forbidden word. So he used that forbidden word, and then it was interesting. Some people, he really made he really made the leftists kind of scramble and panic because of because of the word he used, and um, I don't know. Some were forgiving. Others others took very much offense to it. So okay, well, I'm not seeming to get a response to how many deacons the FSSP ordained earlier this year. But if any of you know, feel free to post in the comments. I'd be happy to know that. I could probably actually just do a Google search, although sometimes it's not the easiest in the world to find this information. But yeah, Google, you can find a lot of things, or you can find not as many things as you had hoped. So okay, I think that's all I have. So okay. Until and yeah, well, I'll talk a little bit about the FSSP priests because it's nice to have more priests for the religious orders, and it seems that bishops are bringing them in and um, trying to save like historic churches and not necessarily the FSSP, but also the Institute of Christ the King. It seems like they took over two parishes late last year, and their religious order doesn't even seem to be very large in the United States. The FSSP is much bigger. So I don't know. But then also, I've also heard that there's this religious order called the Institute of the Good Shepherd, and they only have currently one church in the United States, which is in California. They're larger worldwide, in other areas of the world, but very little in the United States. But they may be expanding. I don't have any inside. I mean, I wouldn't consider it inside information. Um, but it's interesting to me. It's interesting because if you only have one church in the United States, then that would indicate to me that there are very few like English speaking priests. I don't really think I don't know. They probably, I would assume they're not very prominent in the country of England, which it's just the United States and England, which speaks English. Of course, a lot of European countries, most of them know multiple languages, but in the United States, so I don't think they have a lot of United States priests. But that could change if they open up a few missions in the United States, and if they open that up, then yeah, I mean, let's look for United States seminarians. Let's see here. A new comment. Pretty scary that Francis confirmed lots of LMNOP in seminary. Well, yeah. So I mean, so that's and I talked about the information is out there, so I don't feel like I'm breaking any like what would you call it like slander or calumny or whatever. I don't feel like I'm trashing someone's reputation. I'm just pointing out that I wish that people would investigate this kind of stuff and yeah, just find something out, whether it's false or not. I'd like to know the truth, and if the truth is not what fits my narrative, then I have to accept it anyway. So, and that's why I post all my links in the video description, is that you can take a look at these links, and I comment on the news, and you can form your own opinions based on the news stories that I talk about. And some of the headlines are sensationalist, of course, and so I sort of ignore some of those stories. But yeah, so okay, just to follow up is, yeah, next week, next Monday, I definitely won't have this live stream. I may skip a week, I'm not sure. I may do it at a different day, but stay tuned. Um, yeah, if I skip next week, it's because I have something scheduled. I have something scheduled next Monday for sure, but if I skip next week, it's because I'm busy. So it's been, I mean, I've been very busy, and this upcoming, like, this upcoming month really is just a busy month for me personally. So, and I think next month even more so almost. Um, Kind of crazy, but that's what happens when you have like a larger family, extended family, larger extended family. So, um, you can't, you got to stick with your family. I mean, I know there's family disputes with people and everything, but if you can be cordial with your family, it helps you out a lot. You know, get some good Catholic family members, and you're good to go. All right. Well, until next time, this has been EVTN News. Thank you so much for watching. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.